FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of 57-year-old Minnesota man Vance Luther Bolter, a suspect in the assassination of a top state lawmaker. That is the chilling footage and photos that we've all seen today of him at her door. Melissa Hortman, a member of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party and a former Speaker of the State House, and her husband Mark, they were shot and killed early this morning. Bolter is also a suspect in an attack on another lawmaker, State Senator John Hortman, and his wife Yvette. They are expected to survive multiple gunshot wounds. Officials released this photo of the suspect taken this morning in Minneapolis, saying they believe he is working to flee the Twin Cities area. Officials believe the attacks were politically motivated. They say he left behind a list of potential targets. According to an official who has seen the list, the targets are prominent pro-choice individuals in Minnesota, including many Democratic lawmakers who have been outspoken about pro-choice policy positions. They also found dozens of pieces of paper with the words "No Kings" scrawled on them in a car used by the suspect. What those words mean to the suspect, what connection they might have to thousands of protests today, is still unclear. If we learn more, we will certainly bring that all to you. But joining me now is Ken Martin. He is the chair of the Democratic National Committee. He's a proud son of Minnesota, and he is a friend of both the Hortman and Hortman families. Ken, we are I'm so grateful for you to be here with us tonight, because this is so much going on around the country. But I know for you and for so many people from Minnesota, this is a very personal story, a personal night, a tragic night. And I just want to start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about Speaker Hortman and her husband, Mark. What should we know about them?
Well, first, let me just say, Jen, thanks for having me on. Look, like many Minnesotans, I woke up this morning actually in Kentucky to the news, just getting texts that there'd been a shooting in Minnesota, not knowing at the time that it involved many of my friends, including Melissa Hortman, who I've had the great pleasure of knowing for half of my life. I first met her when I was 27 years old. She was 30. This was in the year 2000. She was running for the State House for the very first time. She was a proud alum of Al Gore's Senate office, and I was working for Al Gore's campaign at the time, and we just became really fast friends during that year. And I will tell you, she lost that race. She went on to run again, and she lost again. And in 2003, I can't get this conversation out of my head, because we were down in Iowa campaigning for John Kerry together. And as we were coming back to Minneapolis, driving that 3-hour trip back, she asked me about what she thought, what I thought about her running again. And, I told her something that Paul Wellstone said, that the future does not belong to the cynics or those who sit on the sidelines, but the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams and who are change makers. So Melissa was a huge change maker, just amazing. She did a lot for the state.
You're going to make me cry, which is okay. It's incredible to hear about her and her husband and who they are and who they were, and it's just a reminder of the human beings that are just trying to be public servants and are targeted simply for being public servants, which is just it's outrageous. It's horrific. I want to ask you too, and please keep sharing more about Melissa. We can keep talking about that as long as you would like. I think people love to hear it.
I want to say something more about Melissa before we get into how we got to this mess, because you know what? She was an amazing elected official, and she just persisted. She ran again in 2004 and won that race, and then really climbed the ranks within the State House. She was a fierce champion for working families in our state. And she obviously was one of the longest serving speakers of the House, but she also is one of the most consequential speakers of the House. You've heard a lot about the Minnesota Miracle. That she was the architect of that. That would not have happened without her vision, without her leadership, without her persistence in actually making sure that we pushed hard for an agenda that actually improved people's lives, that centered on working families in our state. As a result, we passed the largest child tax credit, free school lunches for children, paid family medical leave, the largest investments in our K-12 education system, early childhood education. You can go down the list of things she did to actually center working families and children in the conversation. None of that would have happened without Melissa Hortman, and we all owe her a great debt of gratitude.
Yeah, no question about it. There's some incredible stories about her leadership and what she did in the role and her time in public service. In your statement today, which struck me because it was so personal and it was also powerful. And you said these heinous murders are a reflection of the extremism and political violence that have been fomented in our country. I know we're all asking. I mean, in Minnesota, I know, and across the country tonight, how something like this could happen in America. I said earlier, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I know people keep saying this is not who we are. And I think part of it is this is part of who we are. And we need to talk about how political violence on the rise is something that's threatening public officials across the country. But how have you been answering that question today to yourself, to the people who have called you and asked?
Well, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, it has become who we are, but it doesn't mean that is who we should be.
Yeah.
We're better than this. And at the end of the day, we should solve our differences in this country, not through political violence, but at the ballot box, right? And, I thought my governor said it best today when he said, remarkably, just a week ago in Minnesota, they ended their legislative session through compromise. In one of the most closely divided state legislatures in the country, they came together, Republicans and Democrats. They resolved their differences through compromise, through finding common ground to actually get something done for Minnesotans. And, it's just so tragic here right now in this day and age, because we do see the extremism on the far right and we see this violent rhetoric coming from all quarters right now, that legislators can't do their jobs without fearing for their own lives, for God's sake. Is that really where we're at right now? We are at that point. You're absolutely right, Jen. I mean, make no mistake about it. This is who we've become. But I want Americans to know, and every one of your listeners, this is not who we need to be. And that requires all of us in this moment to stand up and speak loudly against this type of violence. Two people. Let's center humanity in this conversation for a moment. Two of my close friends were murdered today. Two of my other friends were they attempted to murder them. And if it wasn't for lawmakers doing their jobs in Minnesota, I don't know how many more countless friends of mine in the Minnesota legislature would have been targeted today. This is wrong. We have to call it out for what it is. And you know what? There is no doubt that that has been fomented by the far right in this country, and extremism and violent rhetoric that exists in the far reaches of the internet that we have allowed to seep into this country. As it's now commonplace to just go out and assassinate people that you disagree with. Well, it's bullshit. And I'm just telling you right now, none of this should happen in this country. Let's solve our differences through the ballot box. Let's solve our differences by finding common ground. No one should be going out there and assassinating people they disagree with.
I think, Ken Martin, your passion, your personal response to this, and I know this has been a heart-wrenching day for you, and the loss of your friends, and the almost loss of your other friends who I know have survived. Thank you so much for being here with me, for speaking so passionately, for calling it out for exactly what it is. I really appreciate it, and we're all so sorry for your loss and for the loss of so many people in Minnesota.